meeting of council to order November 1st, 2011. Press and public are notified. Thank you all for coming. We have one item on the agenda. That's to review and make a decision on the approval of the millage rate for FY12 relative to our operating budget. Linda, why don't you walk us through what we've been through and any developments since then, and then we'll take an action.
Okay, happy to. The goal of this special meeting is to set the adjusted millage rate based on the county's reassessed values. The city needs to adjust its rate to 22.9 mils. Reassessment is the process of revaluing all the property within a jurisdiction to assign new values to it. And the state law requires that reassessment occur every 5 years. So this reassessment was actually due in 2010, but was delayed until this year. Relative to the taxing authorities, reassessment should be revenue neutral. That is, the taxing authority is not meant to receive a windfall in property tax revenues if assessed values increase, nor is the taxing authority supposed to sustain a shortfall if the values overall decrease. Thus, the process that we're facing tonight to adjust the millage. Within the city of Isle of Palms, with this reassessment year, overall values have experienced a slight decrease. This is the first time in the last 10 years that we have had a situation on reassessment where we have had a slight decrease in values. The prior to reassessments within the windows of reassessment that we have experienced, the city of Isle of Palms actually had some increases in values, and therefore the millage adjustment was based on increases in values. Within the city of Isle of Palms, the 4% assessed values, that is the owner-occupied residences on the islands, reflect a number of 4.3% less than in 2010. The 6% assessed numbers reflect a decrease in assessed value of 0.7%. What this means in the case of individual properties is that some individual properties increased in value, some had no change, and some had a decrease in value. But overall, City of Isle of Palms properties' assessed value decreased overall. So because of this decrease in value, contrary to what has occurred in other reassessment years, it is necessary to adjust the millage in order to generate the same revenues that have been generated by the millage last year. You'll recall our revenue budget has been relatively flat. I looked at it right before this meeting. It has been relatively flat over a number of years. So we've been containing our expenses so that those revenues cover our expenses. But we need to now adjust the millage to compensate for that decrease in value, in assessed values. If the millage remains at the 22.2 that it currently has been, and is not adjusted to compensate for the decrease in values, the current budget that we have passed for FY12 would sustain a $200,000 shortfall. And our current millage at 22.3 is made up of the 22.2 is made up of the components of 19.3 for operating and 2.9 for debt service millage. Adjusting the millage, converting it, going through the mathematical analysis that's prescribed in state law to convert it to 22.9 gives us an operating millage of 19.8 and 3.1 for debt service millage for a combined millage rate of 22.9. And that is a 3.1% increase in the overall millage rate for the city. And again, this is intended to be revenue neutral to the city. When you do the computations as to what this will bring in, we still sustain about a $54,000 shortfall. But the $54,000 shortfall is likely, something that we can adapt to within the budget. We're not proposing that the city take the 1.64% cost of living, consumer price index cost of living increase that we could take to help make up that shortfall. We think that moving from 22.2 to 22.9 will be sufficient. Now, what does this mean for the taxpayers? It means that some Isle of Palms taxpayers will pay more in taxes, some will pay less, some will pay near the same, again, depending on what has happened to their assessed value. But in no case is the difference in what they would pay extreme. And we've included with what you have there the same handouts, although abbreviated, to what were supplied to you the last time that this group assembled to discuss this matter. You've got a copy of the law related to reassessment that talks about how one determines the calculation for reassessment. And then you have a worksheet that basically shows about a third of the way down the page, it shows the change, the reduction in the real property 4% assessed by 4.3% down, and the reduction in 6% assessed properties down by 0.7%. Also important to note, at the time that we did these numbers, there were still some 589 appeals outstanding to the assessments. So those remain to be resolved before we actually know what our revenues will be. And then the next sheet actually shows the two calculations, the millage rate at 22.2, showing down at the bottom of the page, anticipated shortfall to FY12 budget, leaving it at 22.2 produces a $196,000 shortfall. Changing it to 22.9 shows the $54,000 shortfall. The last sheet in your handout shows some examples of how individual taxpayers on properties would be affected by a change to 22.2. And what we did was we randomly selected some properties, some assessed at 6%, some assessed at 4%, and went through the calculations. We picked them all over the island, Front Beach, middle of the island, in Wild Dunes, outside of Wild Dunes, Breach Inlet, end of the island. So you've got quite a mixture here. And the way this goes, one property will pay $65 more, the next one $30 less, the next one $47 more, the next one $272 less, the next one $101 more, the next one $418 less, the next one $68 more, and the last one $231 less. Again, all of this depends on whether or not their value decreased, increased, or stayed the same. And all of these calculations were done based on the 22.9 mils. I've got one more handout for you. At the last time that we gathered on October 20th, we had requested some data from Charleston County, had not yet received it. We did receive some data from them, but it was today. So we are still in the process of looking at that data, but we did get some overall answers to some of the questions that you all were asking. So I'll just ask you to take one and pass it down. I think the question that I recall being posed was, how many Isle of Palms properties saw no change in value, and how many had an increase in value, and how many had a decrease in value throughout the island? We were able to extract from the raw data some information regarding that late, probably middle of the afternoon this afternoon. So that's what this handout contains. I want to first make sure everyone has the handout. You can see we're looking at total properties of 5,172, and of that total, 1,134 had no change in value, or 22% of the properties on Isle of Palms. 2,509 saw an increase in their assessed value, and that's 49% of the properties. And 1,529 or 30% of the properties saw a decrease in value. But the important thing to note is the amount of that change, either way, nets a change in assessed value of about $3 million. So that is where we need to adjust the millage from the 22.2 to the 22.9. I also want to just make reference to the last time we assembled on this was October 20th. That meeting, which is basically this presentation with a little more information actually, is posted on the city's website, so people can get a recapitulation of this information there. Also on the city's website is a link to Charleston County's website where reassessment is discussed. There's an excellent frequently asked questions and answers located on that website, and you know, if you go to it, it answers a lot of questions about reassessment and how it works. So in order to meet the revenue needs, which again have been stable over the last several years, the city needs to adjust its millage to 22.9.
Okay, thank you. That being said, I'll make a motion to adjust the millage to 22.9 for the next fiscal year. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion and seconded. Let's have a discussion. Anybody wish to start? I'll start with one point that we haven't been able to get from the county that is of great concern to me, and that is the fact that we have 589 appeals outstanding. We don't know the character of those appeals or the ultimate disposition of them. Looking at the data that was obtained today, I doubt if anybody, it's an assumption on my part, but if their assessment didn't change or it decreased, the odds are they didn't appeal. So 589 out of a population of increases of 2,509, that's roughly 600 out of 2,500. You're dealing with a very large percentage of those that saw an increase have appealed. And we have no idea what the disposition is going to be. They're not going to appeal and get a higher number. They're going to appeal and get a lower number. So the revenue to be driven from the city's base is only going to go down far more than what has been estimated. So I think we're going to face a shortfall even in the condition that we're talking about here. So.
On page
Sandy, we'll just come on the line.
2 of 4, it has a line item in there, add, parentheses, subtract, assessor's estimated appeals.
61,000.
So he's saying that on average, each appeal, 500 and something, is going to have a $1,000 decrease. Is that what you're reading into this, or
that was their number, which you can do your own math.
Yeah, but they deal with this, if you will, 24/7. I mean, they've gone through a plethora of them, and you know, this is what's left, and that's I guess their average that they're. I don't know. Has anybody had a discussion with them about how they came to that, or you're saying that's the question you're asking? And
that's still an open question.
I have to assume they extrapolate to get that from their experience already. You had to appeal between the time you got the notice and
September 28th, I believe.
Something. So I mean, they've been doing it for a while now.
But they still have 589. They've executed a number. I know a lot of people who've appealed and gotten a reassessment. But with 589 still outstanding, and I mean, a $61,000 set aside for appeals seems to be virtually nothing. So, Brian, you have.
Well, I was going to say, at least it's something. So there is some calculation. So there is something. So that impact would be less. I just think that with regards to the reassessment, and since the city's net is zero on this as far as what we're going to do, I mean, we have to look to the future and what impacts would occur if we were not to adjust this to 22.9. I think it's very clear that having a recurring shortfall of almost $200,000 would impact services to the community. significantly. And, before anybody votes no on this, I would like them to consider what services they would be considering cutting and sharing that with us, because personally I think that we run a very lean, very good machine here in the city, and I can't see where we could cut anything from the budget from that perspective.
Okay. Any other comments, either side? None heard? All right, we'll take a vote. All in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
1 no. All right, the motion carries. Nothing else on our agenda to be brought before council?
Before you adjourn, just an opportunity, take this opportunity to make the announcement or re-announce that the Planning Commission is going to be holding 3 open house forums within the community, and each of them is at a location within the area that will be impacted at some point in time. The first of these open houses is November the 9th at the Lutheran Retreat Center from 5:30 until 8. I'm going to have to refer to my cheat sheet to get the...
November 30th.
November 30th is this is at the Citadel Beach House, and then the last one is in December, and it is at the Exchange Club, December 13th, all 5:30 until 8. The intent of these workshops is for the community to come out and give their input concerning beach access parking. The idea being that these will be very informal meetings. You can come and just give your input to a planning commission member while you're there. They will be very informal, walk-up type things, or while you're there, if you would prefer to put your input in writing, there will be accommodation to be able to do that. I think their hope is to engage more people out there in solutions to the parking plan that they are working on, and certainly hope that some people who perhaps have not spoken out concerning their ideas previously will be comfortable in walking not too far from their homes to give their opinions about what solutions they think might work or what they think will not work. Anyone can attend any one or all of these open houses, but the idea was to reach out to the various neighborhoods, try to get closer to them, and try to have a less formal setting than a setting like this or a setting like the Planning Commission. So just a reminder to everybody that that is going to be happening.
It'll be coming up soon. So, mark your calendars. Thank you very much. Motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
We're out of here. Thank you. 15 minutes.